Okay, so let me begin with this. So let me get crack-a-lackin'. Um, with this image here, what we have is a pen that doesn't work. Okay, so I'm going to go into filter and go into liquify. What this is going to do, right now I'm going to show you the, the areas that you have that one would have tackled if they were to have sketched it first. So measurements, symmetries, all of that stuff. That stuff right now is at a lack. You're sort of not really following the symmetry lines, horizontal and vertical symmetry lines that are necessary in making the face look realistic and sort of balanced, fat, muscle, etc. And that one video, it's when I was particularly not a very good artist. So back then, like I've sort of improved since then, even if it might be a little bit, I have. So I'm not sure if people should even be following that video anymore because I do make mistakes in there and I babble on and on. So it was in my early teaching days, I suppose. Okay, so what I've done is this. Okay, oops, sorry. Before, after. Before, after. What this has done to the face is it's made it look more focused. It has made it seem that the eyes are looking in the same direction. Both eyes are looking in at the same object. And I've said this many times in the videos. I'm not sure if you picked this up as well, Jimmy. But I have said that in order to make eyes look like they're facing or looking at the same object, you've got to make them crossed a little bit. Before they were sort of zoning out, and you've noticed maybe in anime that happens when they want to make a character look like they're really zoned out or they're really stupid. They separate the eyes to look in the exact opposite directions. But to make eyes look like they're looking in the same direction, what you have to do is cross them, just not cross them, bring them closer just a little bit to each other. Bring them a little bit closer to each other. That way they look a little bit more focused. When something is focused, let's say you're following, put your fingers in front of your face right now and move your finger closer to your face and make sure your eyes stay on it. You notice at a certain point that it becomes very difficult to stay focused on that finger because you start seeing double. That's the point where your eyes can't go all the way close to each other. Everyone can make their eyes look at their nose, but then you start seeing double. But there's a point where you can bring the eyes close enough to each other to look focused or to look at something or focus at something that is close up to you. So it's not a complete crossing because some people sort of take it overboard, but there is a certain degree of closeness with the eyes so that they look like they're focused. Because again, objects are not all at the same distance from us. So there's objects that are far away and objects that are close. Objects that are closer, obviously, in order to see them, the eyes have to focus on them both because we see with two eyes, not with one eye. And so they have to cross a little bit to be able to look at the close-up object. So let's say that every portrait you're going to paint from now on, Jimmy, the characters are going to be looking at the audience, which is me right now. They're looking at me. And in order for this to make sense that they're looking at me, they have to be crossed a little bit. Second thing is, I talk about this in the video, I'm not sure why you deviated away from the original tones, but the general tone of everything needs to be lower. So the value needs to be a little bit lower as well as the saturation. But you have the good colors here. You have good colors. I'm just going to use the colors that you chose here. But you need to have a little bit more of a tanned look before you start applying the lights, because if you start off light and you're adding the more light to make a 3D object, then what's going to happen is it's going to get really light and it's going to look washed out. That's the key word. Avoid looking washed out. Looking washed out becomes very easy to achieve because of starting out with a really high value and then finishing off with a low value. Sure, I can take a look at this, Niall. There's no problem with it. Really well done. Okay, so that being said, so let's say look at where we are now and where we were before. Okay, so before, do you see that alien look I'm talking about, Jimmy? No, 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 not just with the not just with the iris or whatever they call it. It's the whole eye part of the eye. I'm not sure. Back then I was really confused between the definition of pupil and iris, so I'm sorry if I interchanged those changes. But do you guys see what I'm saying? And now before, the eye looks a little bit more focused. Before, after. Before, what it looked like you did was you went into liquify and then you got the expand tool and then you just expanded it. That's what it looked like was going on. It looked like this whole area was just a hole where nothing existed. So do you see what I mean? Do you notice that? Where everything was like, seemed like she was a ball. Her head was a ball and the objects were on the ball. So let me show you again, just to keep the lesson going. What is those thingies, those nesting dolls? When you bring a nesting doll really close to your head, like close up, really close to your eyes, what you see is that sort of separated look. Let me see if I can find one just so that I can show you. Avoid making features look like they're stuck on a circle or on a ball or on some sort of ornament. Instead, make it look like they're actually sitting on the squaredness of the face and the many grooves that come with it. So you don't want just Google, just don't fail me, Google. I'm just trying to find I guess this one, no, that's not going to work. Don't paint as if you are painting like this. As if you are drawing features on top of the circle form, because that's what you guys think you're doing. I'm fooling you by that video before. I told you start off with a simple blob. Remember that, Jimmy? When we started off with just a blob and then we started adding features and light and stuff. You guys think you're drawing on a circle. That's just the surface area of the skin. That's just a blob is there to give me space so that I could draw the features. I'm not telling you that the face shape is a circle. That's a mistake, and don't make that mistake. Okay, next thing I talk about is the dark spots. The dark spots help you determine where you want to place all the features. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to blot out some of these. Not really blot them out, but like sort of bring them down in value so that you can see the power of the dark spots. Then I'm going to choose, okay, you chose a really good color, sort of a reddish brown. Make sure the reds are still preserved in there because we're not trying to go for a dark tone that's too gray. So some of you would do this. You'd go to your basic shade or medium shade and then you'd do this, which is so wrong because this is not how you get a shadow. Look at how gray that looks. There's no saturation in that. If I were to desaturate this entire image, there's not much change in that color. Do you see that color doesn't change much because there was never any color in it to begin with. So what you do, gotta get rid of her birthmark. You do is you choose the medium tone and then you drag to the saturated area here so that you preserve the blood in the skin, and it will turn out to be a color very similar to the one you have here, just a little bit darker. But I'm going to use the one that you chose anyway. And what I'm going to do is, actually it needs to be a little bit darker, so I'll choose in the between both colors. I'm going to start introducing the dark spots because these areas have to be dark. That's why I call them the dark spots. That's why I stress so much about them. I'm sorry if I'm not looking at the comment section. I just want to focus on the critique and then I'll skim through. If there's anything you guys want me to see, then message me on not Facebook, on Skype. Okay. So dark spots are important because why? They have to be dark. Those are areas that can't help but be dark in a face. Why is that? Because they're crevices, they're holes, they're actual valleys or caves in the face that light cannot reach. So we have to represent them as shadows. We have to respect the fact that they need to be represented as a dark tone in order for us to create a convincing looking face. And don't stress too much the bridge here, this thing. Some artists don't do it, some artists do too much of it. This part here. Let me show you why. I actually found these two looking at rhinoplasty before and after. But look at this before and after here. Is everyone seeing this? It's really cool, interesting. I'm sorry I'm such a nerd, but this is stuff that interests me because it helps me build my art technique. Do you see this bump she had in her nose before? This is something fine. Maybe she was born with it. Maybe someone punched her in the face and it flattened her nose out. But this is the after. You want a drawing that doesn't look like it's doing this, but look at how it is possible. This is the before. Look at how it is how possible this is in real life, and look at how cartoony it looks. If you trace this, literally, if you, she looks like she's Mother Goose or something. Like she looks like one of those fairy tale characters, or she looks like she's the fairy godmother from Cinderella. It's perfectly fine, and I think this nose is adorable. But be careful not to do this in your art. You want to create the sense of a bridge, but not so much that you create a bridge that looks like, if she had a shadow like this, her bridge from the side, her nose from the side would look like that. Because there's so much of a shadow and so much of a protrusion and outward movement. You want something in between, which is basically what the plastic surgeon achieved. And look at how that is visible. Do you see those? She had 0 shadow lines here. It's really, really cute button nose. Oh my gosh. I don't know why she even changed it, but I guess people change things. And look at how the nose now captures light. Do you see the light string right there? Light string right there. Just a bit of a light, and then 2 small, gentle changes in value. Very, very, if you measured this in value, probably like 2 shades darker, and that's it, maximum. And it's created the feeling of a outward moving nose instead of a flat nose. Now we can do that here, and that's what it looks like she has right now. But we don't want that. We don't want that button nose because it does tend to look a bit cartoony, and we want to avoid that. And we're not like anime where there is literally no nose except 2 slits, which is impossible in real life. So you want the mid section, the mid area. And what you want to do is present a small amount of bridge, not all the way. Like I said, 2 or 3 shades darker, and that's that. Second thing is, maybe I can show you in these, is the shadow under the eye. Do you see that piece of light here? It's almost the same shade moving through under her eyebrow right here. It's almost the same shade. The reason why it's almost the same shade is because it's one big socket and the eyebrow is growing on the edge of that socket. So if you want to make eyebrows look real and not look like they've been penciled in, search up right now on Google penciled in eyebrows or drawn in eyebrows or scows brows, and you'll see what I mean. If you want to make the eyebrows look like they're sort of existing on the face, what you have to do is present them as if they are part of the socket. So introduce the shadow first. That's how you make it seem like they're part of the socket. You have to introduce the shadow first. So the shadow of the socket. A socket, what is the socket, Jimmy? A socket is a hole in the face, literally a hole. Look up the skeleton. That's why it's important to look at skeletons and look at the true biology beneath all of this this portraiture that we are pursuing. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out. And this is not the eyebrows right now. No, I'm not painting the eyebrows. Right now I am painting the shadow of the eyebrows. Then slowly I will start to introduce more shadowing and shaping, and that will lead me into the general area on which the eyebrow will exist. There is a nice little lightness that goes beneath eyebrows that you could also apply. So it's like the brow bone here. I'm talking about this. And you can just, through those shadows, only through the shadows, shape the eyebrows. And make sure that they look a little bit realistic and less artificial looking like they did before. So just from this stage right now, let's look at what we had before. Before, really washed out, eyebrows look like they're drawn in, eyes are separated, nose is far down, and lips are really, well, their lips are fine, but the nose is pushing the lips down so they look compressed. And then after, we're sort of pushing everything back up. Next thing I'm going to do is even out the shades on the eyes, not make it look like she's wearing too much makeup, and sort of remove the lashes. You've sort of, Jimmy, depended on the lashes too much to represent the beauty. There are beautiful eyes that don't have massive lashes, so don't depend too much on the lashes. I'm going to paint the upper lid and the bottom lid. So bottom lid first. It doesn't really matter which one you do first. It's really just, you know, you're creating, you're basically the creator of the painting, so it's your choice how you want to shape the face, what kind of face you want to end up having. So just painting in the upper eyelid and the bottom eyelid, making sure you have the crease. If you're doing an Asian eye, certain types of Asian eyes don't have a crease, but typical Caucasian eyes have a crease. And I'm trying to work with the style you already started with. This is not my style of painting faces, but you have duplicated my video, so I'm trying to sort of find a mid-ground and not lead you too far away from your own style or lead you away from something you might discover for yourself. I don't want you guys to duplicate what I do in that video. I want you to discover your own version. Okay, and I'm going to keep the eyebrows really, really blurry at this stage because I'm not yet at a small brush stage. As you can notice, my brush is actually this size right now. So I'm not making any, with pen pressure on, of course, and I'm not making any details, any small details. My brush isn't going down to a really small size yet. Next up are those gentle light spots I used to tell you guys about. I want to make her face look a little bit more sculpted, so I'm going to bring in the cheekbones a little bit closer to the face. And then finally, I'm going to add in the dark spot of the lip corner. It's not, this isn't a spot that has to, this can't stay in this shape. This dark spot has to eventually be reshaped and morphed into representing the overlapping of the two lips. It's not a actual blob of dark, as you can see from videos or movies or photographs or any references that you work from. It's not an actual blob, so don't make it a blob. It's a gradual shading. Okay, so you want to leave the lips open, so that's fine. I'm just going to work with the lips open. And I've talked about in the How to Paint Lips video. I really recommend you watch that next, Jimmy, because those are a lot later. They come a lot later than the How to Paint Skin Realistically video, and I sort of talk more and more about what I do to paint lips. Okay, and I'm just going to introduce that dark spot, but introduce it in a way that these lips are overlapping each other. Fuchsia, you can send yours again. Okay, so I'm just trying to make the lips look a little bit realistic. What I usually do, this is something I do that you don't have to do. I usually just get the burn tool. The burn tool darkens and saturates, so it brings in the reds as it darkens. And that's something that's sort of hitting two birds with one stone, and it saves me a lot of time. So I usually use that for the lips, but if you don't want to use that for the lips, simply go in here, get a darker red and a darker brown and overlap them over the paint that you already have, but preserving your values. Preserving your edges, I mean. This is something that I usually do here. Okay, next up, I recommend you watch the How to Paint Eyes as well, because that'll teach you how to paint an eye that actually looks like it's spherical, an eye that looks like it works, not an eye that is coming from a symbolic morph of two upside down or right side up, open and close brackets. So it's not an eye that looks like this, it's an eye that is a circle with the lids on it. So I want you to preserve the circular shape. So the way the lids wrap on the circle is in a circular way. They don't do this. They don't do this Egyptian thing. They do this. Excuse me. Okay? So eyeliner, again, if you guys do yourself the favor of learning how to apply makeup through YouTube videos or whatever, endless resources on YouTube, then you'll understand how eyes are actually reshaped through eyeliner, because they change the way the eyelids work by putting eyeliner on the eyelids. And so that changes how the eyes look. So right now what I'm trying to do is make the eyes look like they're spherical, sitting on top of the sphere of the eye. They're a bit sort of elongated here because of the makeup that we're emulating here. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out, way too zoomed in. The next thing that I usually do is get the lighter shade, and I've shown you guys that it should be a yellow shade, a warm basically is what I mean. And I place it on all the light spots, so beneath the eyes, on the nose, nose bridge, beneath the eyebrows, on the cheekbones gently, in the duck area of the lips, and either side of the lips and over there. Make sure not to make it look blotchy like this. This is blotchy. You need to blend and create gradual tones. There are edges that need to be there, of course. You have to preserve some edges because in realistic drawing there aren't any edges because there aren't any outlines. So you can't outline. You have to find edges, replace edges with outlines. And so what we're doing here is just all the areas that are capturing the light are just getting some light source on them. Okay. Soften up the nose area here and here. And I am painting with a soft brush, and I am painting in my style. So again, this is not necessary for you guys to copy me exactly, but there are principles that'll help you, whether you paint with a hard brush or not, whether you paint with Paint Tool Sai, or whether you're an anime artist or whatever. These are all simple techniques that you can use to create a better looking, more realistic looking eye. What I did was I got some of the dark of the iris and I placed it as eyeliner. Now do you see what I mean by eyeliner? Look at what it does. It reshapes the eyes, makes them look a lot more enhanced. We can put makeup on our drawings. That's the point of learning how to apply makeup. All of you here who like to draw faces, I'm sure if you picked up a makeup brush, you would be amazing. You would be like a prodigy because that's basically the same exact thing. You're just using colors and shadows to complement the shade of the eye. That's why they call it eye shadow and eyeliner. You're intensifying the shadows of the eyes, making them look like they're doing something they're really not. By making them, most of the time, seem bigger. No one wants to put makeup on that makes your eyes smaller. Everyone wants to get bigger eyes. And then finally for enhancements, what I usually get is a highlighter. And this is really early on stuff. I know this is not everyone does this stuff, but just because you're starting with faces, I just want to give you a basic thing to work with in case you get commissions or anything like that, so that you can provide your customer with sort of what they want. If they're asking for a character design or something, this is usually good level character design makeup and face design makeup thing. It's usually good. It usually gets you a pass. And I'm just trying to give you stuff that gets you a pass. I also recommend watching the How to Paint Noses video from all sides so that you know why I placed this light here. I'm really talking very generally right now, Jimmy, so I'm not sure if you're picking up anything, seriously right now. I really want you to pay more close attention to each feature separately, apply different levels of effort. Don't just depend on every face you draw to better your understanding of faces. No, spend an actual hour just on noses, an actual hour just on lips, so that each of those areas has been considered in its own time and space, so that when you do end up painting a full-on face, you've applied equal amount of effort on all the aspects of the face. And that's pretty much how I would change your drawing. Now let me look at the comments. I want to see what you guys are saying. I'm sorry if I'm ignoring you. I just wanted to focus on the critique. Oh yeah, Nyla's moving. Oh, nope, not me. It's Funny Creature by Scott. Does lip gloss count? Lip gloss comes after you've sort of gotten the basic shape, and I recommend watching the How to Paint Lips video because I talk about how to make lips look like they're dry, which is the texture part of the lips. So lip gloss really is just the edges of the lips, those creases, enhanced. So what I usually do to make it look like she's wearing lip gloss is just get the sharpen tool and lay it over, and then get the dodge tool. And then sharpen tool again, and then just keep working. This is Linda Berkvist's method. She uses the sharpen tool and a bunch of edge work, making her paintbrush 100% opacity, which I should have been working with. No wonder I was working this well. And just keep sharpening and then editing, and she eventually gets that actual lip look. It's online, it's everywhere, the tutorial. You can really look for it. But now it looks like her lips are excessively dry and everything else isn't dry. So that's why you have to be at equal level detail. So this is the part, Jimmy, where you decrease the size of your brush and you go in and put freckles and put all manners of details. For the eyebrows, which are the most important part of the detailing process, you have to start painting in the eyebrow hairs so that the eyebrows look a little bit more realistic. And so I've talked about this again on how to paint eyes, so you really should watch that to talk about how to make the eyebrows look like they're realistic, like I'm doing right now. I'm basically working with the tones already there in the face, and I'm making it look like the eyebrows are, there's a growth pattern, like fishbone growth pattern. Do you see? Now the eyebrows look like they're actually growing on the face, but still I kept the same level of detail and same values and same saturations all around. So I'm going to keep this eyebrow not done so that you can see the difference. Okay, for the lashes, also same thing. Just make sure that you're not drawing lashes like this, Jimmy. I will literally travel through internet and slap you across the face. I'm so sorry. But I hate it when artists are tricked by anime and all that cartooning nation into drawing eyelashes like this. Do not, at any point in time, I know my teaching style is really weird, Jimmy. I'm sorry, but I'm going to be rough with you. Do not draw eyelashes like this. You have to draw lashes like you were doing before. You can't do that anymore. You have to draw lashes that work with the growth of the eyelid, and they taper off near the inner corner. Work with the growth of the eyelid. So at one point they're facing this way, another point they're facing this way. Do you see this? The curvature, the gentle curvature is very, very important. So now when you apply these lashes here, apply them with the same delicacy and distribution so that they look a little bit more realistic than you did them before. And we'll see the before and after. And I'm just trying here to duplicate what Jimmy did, but just like the realistic version. I would not draw lashes this large. You know, I'm not like, it's not my style. But that's how I used to do it before, and I sort of got sick of it because I used to be over dependent on lashes. Something I usually do as well is get the dodge tool and just burn the inner part of the corner here of the eyebrow. Burn the nose so it looks a little bit more red and touched by the cold, and burn some of the edges of the cheekbone to like make it look like she's wearing some blush. But you can do that just by going here into the blush, into the red blush color, and applying it between every shadow and light. And all these areas here can use some blush. If she's in the cold, if whatever. Okay? And again, you can decrease the size of your brush and go even further and shape out the lips and create some edges, bring in some illumination. And you know that white line that outlines all lips? Again, watch the how to paint lips video. You'll see what I mean. I really recommend you guys watch that because it's like private tutoring, but not private tutoring. Like I really go in depth into that. And so this is another way to make lips look really, really, full and protruding. This is something we do in makeup. Okay, we get a white liner, we put it over top our lips. I'm telling you, research some makeup, it'll change your life as an artist and as a portrait artist. So those are the minor details I talk about here and there. And then I'm also going to put some reds in between every shadow and light spot, so a red that is outlining every shadow. So if there's a shadow here, a little bit of red here. And then finally, for additive glamour, something we do in makeup as well, which is putting a white line on the waterline, is put some white here. Not white, it's not a white, it's like a very peachy pink flesh tone color. Just look in the mirror, you'll see before your lashes come, and in between your lashes and your line, the line of your iris, there is a bit of white capturing the light, which is where the tear ducts are nested. And that is also glamour. And let me show you where that is in makeup. White waterline makeup. Let's see what comes up. Okay. So basically, it's this. Do you see how her eye, she placed some white here? That makes eyes look bigger. It's also here. Do you see that white that they've placed? Makes eyes look bigger. That's what we're doing here. We can't forget that in our makeup. Some people put a black, which makes eyes look smaller, and I really don't know why some girls do that. Maybe girls have really big eyes and they have really blue eyes, and so they want to make it more sharp, but all in all, just don't do that if you're actually applying makeup. It's not good for you. Meaning it's not good for making your eye look really big. So you getting everything I'm saying, Jimmy? And I'm just gonna save so that I don't lose it, and then I'm gonna show you before and after. Again, Jimmy, I've shown you everything. I've talked you through it, and I've told you go to the videos on how to paint nose, how to paint eyes and lips. I hope this works as a good introduction into this class. Jimmy, I know Jimmy's his first time here, I believe. But yes, go to the how to paint eyes, nose, and lips video so that you know why I made those specific changes, because those are something I spend an hour or two talking just about eyes, and there's many videos about it. So I've explained the reasons why I've changed everything. So this is the before. Too dark, washed out, eyes separated, nose too low, push that all up again. This is what I mean by proportions, Jimmy. He asked me about proportions. And moved everything back, softened the skin tone, darkened it up. It was really, really light. And I sort of worked with the same features you chose. It's just that I oh dear, my history stats are back to stupid. Let me just nope, that's not it. Edit. It's not gonna bring them back, but preferences general. It is on 1000. So why did it? I didn't brush that much, did I? I don't know. So yes, I worked through and then I ended up with this. Okay. So yes, go to those videos. You'll know why I made those changes. And you can rewatch this video so that you know, so that you can follow it, pause it, because I know I'm going a bit fast because I've got a lot to look at. And after. Do you see the flesh tones are very warm? The flesh tones are very skin-like, very realistic. And you have some purples in the skin tones already, which is nice. I don't need to add it. And that's it. Okay, I'll send this back to you, and I hope that worked as a good summary and introduction. So welcome, Jimmy. Welcome to our improvement community. The amount of improvement I've been seeing is phenomenal. I didn't think that I would ever see that. Not because you guys are bad, but because I'm a really bad teacher. I consider myself a really bad teacher because I talk and I don't really get to the point. But I'm really proud of all of you. So welcome, Jimmy, and I hope it turns to be worth it to have joined our community here. Okay, so everyone give Jimmy a nice warm welcome. Next up is this one. By, I'm not sure who did this one here. Let me see. Manuel Pantaleon, which is Ridoku, I believe they are called. And they're no longer with us. I think they left. Are you still here? I don't think they're here. But I will take a look at it anyway. I'm going to look at it just as a, so without the color, because the color seems a bit, stylistically influenced, because it's sort of anime tones, very pastel, so I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to desaturate that. I'm going to look at it just as a sketch. Just as a sketch, you need a little bit more work on the fluidity of the pose, which means this. The pose itself, this part here, it looks pretty much okay. He seems to be leaning and he seems to be having some sort of lean, but the general location of his head isn't supporting that kind of lean. So his head not only needs to be a little bit bigger, but needs to be placed here, so that it looks like his elbow is tucked into his, not his elbow, yes, tucked into his arm, and his shoulder is tucked into his neck. So that will make the gesture more believable. So he's sort of pushing this way with his shoulder tucked in. This means that this shoulder here becomes slacked. So you try doing that movement yourself. You see how your neck literally touches your shoulder bone? Literally touches your socket, your joint, shoulder joint, And then what happens is this area here starts to slack off. So if this is slacking off, that means that he's not only tucking this in, but this in. So this is wrong, because it would mean that he's trying to make his boobs look bigger. So he's literally like just, squeezing his pecs with both his arms by tucking in his two shoulder sockets into his neck, and then that produces this kind of really dense, really, really stiff look. So you're all with me? Is everyone with me? So let me show you how to change that. You change that by moving, let me just, a lot of aspects of this drawing. Moving this entire arm with all the props attached to it. I recommend before doing a full-on painting to practice the shot by itself first and then see where that takes you. So now his shoulder looks like it's relaxed. So let me show you what that means. That means that the location of the elbow has changed from being on his inner thigh to being on his knee. Okay, so does everyone see that? Might be a little bit stretched, but I will fix it in a moment. Okay, and then just tuck that in this way. So now it looks like he's leaning on his arm is sitting on his elbow or knee instead of his inner thigh. Okay, so that looks more like a natural fluid pose instead of before where he was. Let me just bring down the value so you can see. Instead of before where it was really like it was like 3 different poses at the same time, and his arm and his head were just in the wrong spot. Okay, so this is before and this is after. Do you see how his position looks a little bit more believable? And all of this can be avoided. All of it can be avoided simply by practicing the figure beforehand, using some nice references, and using lines to start off the image. So basically doing this type of deal here. Just, figuring out how he's going to be sitting, if his arm is going to be moving out this way, his arm is going to be moving all the way out this way. If it is going to be tucking his elbow in, so it'll have to be locked. And then that way you know where the other shoulder is, and then that way you know where the other hand is. This hand is a bit too short to begin with. So this is the kind of stuff that you would probably want to do beforehand so that you don't make the mistake that you made before, where it looked extremely stiff and extremely awkward. Really, really awkward position. It was like he was sitting down and then he saw something and he moved his head so he could see where it was going. Like he was following the place where a rabbit was or a fly. He was like following a fly with his head, and he's ready to get up. Like it's in a really awkward place where it's if you were taking a picture of someone getting up, it would be like one of those pictures that you would delete after editing your pictures, because it makes no sense because it's blurry and he's doing a weird movement. But this is a pose. This is where the pose actually starts to make sense. Let me just realign the features together. And this is like sort of the pose is believable. It's ready for a photograph. Okay, it is a bit still wonky because I'm not sure how to play with this character here. I would do a little bit more work. I would stretch out the hand, but still looks a bit awkward, to say the least. This arm, this foot should be back here. So meaning this whole arm would be pushed back in distance away from us into the same area where this foot is. Because right now he's not really sitting relaxed. Can anyone do this where their leg is all the way in front where their knee is? If you're sitting down, it'd be really, really uncomfortable. But if you are leaning down and you are putting your leg somewhere, or sitting down in this slacked way and you're putting your leg, resting it on something, then your leg would be more like this. So at this point, he's still putting his knee on his inner thigh, and his leg on his inner thigh. So it would be more like this, and then off where this foot is. This is where the other foot would be. So meaning that this arm, this whole arm, is pushed off this way, giving the tuck a little bit more of a bend in the elbow, and then holding the sword, which would sit like this, touching the ground a little bit. Okay? So I'm going to actually save it like this for you so that you can see what I'm doing. This part here is wrong. This part is right. You're not here with us right now, so we're probably going to watch the recording and then get a good critique for that. Okay, save that. And now it's time to go into this one. This is a 3/4 view. For the person who painted this, who painted this again? Kill Concept Phase 2. Oh, this is, no, Black Lotus. Oh, Black Lotus. Black Lotus, I recommend watching the video on how to draw face in 3/4 views. There's a lot to talk about at this point, and I feel like I'll be rushing through it and it would be unfair to you. So what I recommend is go into that. The first issue with 3/4 views is that some of you draw both sides of the face as if they're different faces. So if one side looks skinny, for some reason when you draw the 3/4 side, which is the side that only half of the face shows, you draw it as if it was a chubbier person's face. You also, some of you forget to follow. Really well done, I really like the way you painted it. It's just in the wrong spot. You need to do more planning, Lotus, okay? The eye seems like it's out of the, completely out of the proportion, or completely out of the area where the face is existing, so out of the vertical and horizontal lines. The lips most of the time don't represent a 3/4 bend. They're always trying to be front view. These are very common mistakes with 3/4 view drawings, especially for artists who are starting out. And the way to avoid them is to just think about it in a 3-dimensional way. Think about the actual contours that are involved and shape the eyes accordingly. Okay, so with these minor corrections, and they're still ways away from being proportionate, you can see the huge difference already established in the face. Okay, so before, after. This is mumps syndrome. This is what I've talked about before. It looks like your character for some reason got the mumps only on one side and their cheek is expanded on that one side. This happens because you guys, again, don't think about the way the cheek works. So the way you drew the cheek here, I mean, if you drew the cheek on this side like this, why am I using this kind of brush? If you drew the cheek on this side more like this, and there wasn't much of a neck area, and it was very chubby, and then there was this big bend, then maybe at that point I'd believe you in the fact that the other cheek might be protruding the way it was before, because now it looks like it's the same on either side. He just looks like he's chubby now. Okay, with a little muffin. He's eating a muffin. But that's not what you were going for. Not at all, Lotus. Okay, the way you drew the one side here is you drew it as if to suggest a very lean face. So the way to know, Lotus, to get to the point, because I seem to go on and on, is if you draw this side first, I recommend you draw this side first in a 3/4 view. Always draw this side first. Okay. After you draw that, pretend like you got a piece of duct tape or a piece of tape or got a pen or something and lined the face. How would that look? And once you get that, let me just show you this beautiful little trick. Once you get that, what you do, let me just, literally, if you guys are having trouble, this is the fix. Like I'm telling you, I'm telling you the fix right now. Okay, flip horizontal and then take it to the other side. That is usually what it's supposed to look like on this side. Okay, kind of did it wrong, but it gives you the general gist. This is how it's supposed to be on this side. Did everybody see that little trick? I sort of made it too much on this here. But let's just say it goes from the chin, or at least get this part here. It's easy to bring around the chin. Just this part, line it up. Okay, whenever you guys have trouble figuring out how to draw the other side of the 3/4 view. Okay? Does everyone get that? Let's do it one more time. Just line it. This part is the hard part because you're probably gonna, I'm not saying this trick is 100% accurate because some of you will just draw like this, and then you'll take it to the other side, and what you're gonna get is like expansive cheekbone surgery kind of deal, and then you're gonna get a cheekbone that is protruding off to one side. You have to have good knowledge of contours to begin with. So it's sort of like a dumb trick, really, but I hope it helps because you just have to think about if he was crying, okay? Let's say he's crying, and let's just imagine the trail of blood tears on his face, where they're going, basically. So let's just say it's coming out of this corner, going down, okay? And then we're just going to duplicate. So what you do really is you get a V tool, click on the V, click on one of the edges here, flip horizontal, take it to the other side, adjust it to be around the eye, and there you go. You have the other edge all well and done. And you can see now how incredibly different it is from how it looked before. Before, do you see that mumps? Do you see the mumps? And after. Okay. Sorry, I'm sort of losing my voice. Another thing, so now that we got proportions, this is proportions, Jimmy. This is what I mean by proportions, making sure things look the same and are the same measurement and are symmetrical. Another big thing is the shadow. He's got a lot of Justin Bieber hair all over his face. Oh yeah, did you guys hear Justin Bieber got arrested? I don't know why that's important to me, but I follow Mark Dice, and he sort of made fun of it. Okay, and so this shadow here needs to be thrown on top. Alright, why do we put this shadow? Because it is required in order to prove that the hair really is standing in the way of the light shining on the eyes. Do you see what I mean? But what do? What do? Okay, so Lotus, after you determine the shadow and you draw the shadow over, you have to make sure everything doesn't look like it's glowing. And for stylistic reason, you can make the eyes look like a little bit bright, as if they have their own light source of their own. Saturate just a bit to make them look a little bit more intriguing, and then darken accordingly to make it softer. After that is taken care of, you now have a place, you now have a signifier that tells you where the light is shining, and it's shining in all the areas that are around the shadow. But like I said before, make sure you saturate make sure you have the blush color between the shadow and the light all the time. So you see this light here that you have on the nose, it's facing the wrong direction. It's supposed to be sort of in this area here, in this general area. Okay, and then the shadow of the nose, just like the hair is casting a shadow, the nose will cast a shadow. And don't depend on ambient light to make the image look three-dimensional, okay? Because that's not going to make it look three-dimensional. What you have to do is get the basics first and then add the props. Secondary light source is a prop. You don't need it in order to see the character. Okay, so you need that shadow. Do you see what that shadow did to the nose? Made it look extremely realistic. Not extremely, but much more. And then you know that area right under your nose? It's sort of the area that has the hair. It sort of catches light sometimes because it gets a bit moist from your boogers. So in order to show more nose and more form, which is what we want, form, what you have to do is throw a little bit of light there, and that's made the nose look a lot more realistic. It's not really boogers, but a lot of artists do it. Sakimi-chan does it if you guys want to mimic her style, which is easily mimicable. It's just using the same exact things, just changing the props around it. Same exact face settings, so to speak. A little bit of light around the nose. And then the cheekbones, which are visible here, he's got very nice cheekbones. They also cast a shadow on one side. So that's the shadow here. Okay. And some shadows there. And that secondary light source is really interrupting the image. So you want to make sure you're not doing a kind of light source that is not helping. I'm sort of going to push his nostril up a little bit because it was a bit down before, really dragging low. And finally, you need some of that red in the lips. The lips seem to be very green. You also want to give him a very masculine nude, if it's a man or a girl, I'm not sure. The top lip is always darker, but not significantly as if it looks like the top lip has makeup on it, or is an actual darker tone than the bottom lip. It is a shadow change, because the top lip doesn't usually get light. And remember that little line on the lips, here and there, some here, and then instant lip. Make sure you have your dark spots and your light spots. And all the shadows that you have, make sure they have reds in them. They are cooler. Shadows are cooler, but make sure they have reds in them nonetheless, because it is blood under the skin. We're not painting a doll. We're painting a human being that is composed of a transparent organ called skin, or collected through a transparent organ called skin, and that skin beneath it, it's very transparent in itself, and beneath it is a lot of blood, flowing blood. I'm just going to tuck his face in a little bit. It's a bit far away. Okay, and then finally the hair color is very it's very pastel, and it looks like he's wearing a wig. It's okay if in cosplay you look like you're wearing a wig, because it's really hard to make hair look realistic, and it takes like a lot of money and a lot of time to put actual human hair and dye it the right color and place it in there and make a wig. But you know, the wigs that they used for the Hobbit for all the dwarves, those are all human hair. It was all in layers too, which is intense. But anyways, but you in painting, we have the luxury of making something look realistic, or have the film or the filter of cartooniness, so we don't have to look like we're wearing wigs. So what you do is you bring in some warm flesh tones over the hair. And sorry, that was a weird cough. And make sure that you have those flesh tones there. So you see how now it looks a lot more realistic than it did before, which is very green. So that's the before. After. Okay. And as for that secondary light source you're using, you're overusing it just a touch. I'm just going to blot it out. Bring the flesh tones back. And I'm going to show you how to use it effectively, so that you only use it in the areas you truly need it, so that it looks more realistic. I'm also going to get rid of this hand here. It's sort of disrupting the critique. You can put it in later, but I'm just so that we could. Now it looks like a 90s glamour shot. Anyways. Going to bring in some of those illuminations. I usually use the dodge tool for this, simply because it saturates and illuminates at the same time, so it saves me a lot of time. You guys can start using it, but make sure you use it not sparingly. Make sure you use it only in the areas you truly need it. And I'm going to use my soft brush here to make the skin look a little bit more organic. Okay. And make the eyes a little bit less animated. So I'm just gonna bring in some illuminations. And areas in the hair here that are going over the eyes, you really have to detail them so that they show how they're casting over the eye. And then increase the size of your brush. And like I used to show you guys, make sure you go from large to small for hair and just place in all the areas that you want shaded, and then decrease your brush as you continue shading. So that makes hair look a lot more realistic because it comes in chunks of different sizes. And then get one area where the light is shining and then just illuminate that, instant hair. And then just continue on, making sure all of the shadows are nice and tapered off well, good gradients, powerful solid edges. And make sure that I do have a video on how to draw lips in 3/4 view, so that could help you guys as well if you're struggling with that. And then finally I'm going to finish off by strengthening the dark spots. I'm going to do a dark spot there, dark spot there, and dark spot for the eye. And the image is sort of going to come to life in just a matter of seconds, just 1 minute. Well, 1 second. Hope this is helpful and this isn't just me going on and sort of talking about it as if I already understand it. I don't know how to explain that. Like sometimes some teachers talk about it as if they expect everyone to know what they're talking about, even though there's not, because that's why the teacher's there, to help them understand it. I hope I'm not that kind of teacher right now. Okay, so for the edge work, I'm gonna get that same color you chose. And edges, it's not like you have to place them in the areas where an edge, a light can be reflected. So the nose is very shiny, it's very oily, and that's usually what reflects it light very well. The bottom lip is usually very shiny and oily. Top lip, usually only on the corner of the top lip. And then a little bit on the edge where there's hair on the face. And then usually boys have a lot of a stubble near their hair. Hair is hair, so it's going to get a lot of the secondary light source here. And then clothes also get a lot of the secondary light source. Anywhere where there's hair edging, those usually get secondary light source. So over there. And then if the light is behind them as well, they're going to have sort of a halo of that light source color. And then of course we're going to need his other shoulder, because I don't think he can go on without his other shoulder. Okay, so do y'all see the difference now? Y'all see the difference? Twilight vampire. Sorry if I made him look like a Twilight vampire. I'm just working with what I have here. Okay, so before, do you see how the proportions were a bit off? The hair is a bit pasty. You're overusing the light, the secondary light source color. And then after, I showed you how to warm it up a little bit, how to make it look a little bit more realistic. I showed you how to find the other edge. And you can just keep going on and on. I sort of lost his eye color here. Let me just bring it back. Yeah, it looks like he aged because he no longer has the baby face. Baby face is that circle face that he had before. And I sort of gave him that edge that you had. But if you want to make him look like a baby, it's very easy. All you have to do is bring down the puberty a little bit. So puberty, what it makes you get is a very stubby chin and a very... Now he looks like he's in his teens. Soften the edges. Puberty means testosterone. Testosterone means jawline and cheekbones. So he looks like he's like, I don't know, 18. Now he looks like he's 12, 13. Do you see the difference now? I can leave it at this if you want, or I can leave it as Edward Cullen. Official Seam, are you here with us? Are you with us today? It's like a seance. I'm going to make it the younger version because maybe you don't like. I don't know, honest. I'll just leave it at this version. He looks like he's a heroine from like a vampire. I'm sorry, it's like vampire, but it's because of the eyes and the teeth are showing. That's the only reason I'm relating it to a vampire. It looks like he's from one of those, Harlequin novels. He's going to like break his shirt open and reveal his chest. The boys are cringing. So I'm going to save this and send it to you. Oh, okay. I'm not sure where you get to take it. Okay, Niall. So let's look at this one. Niall, are you here with us tonight? Are you here? Okay, I'm going to bring down the... I don't swoon. I don't. I'm just going to bring down the shades a little bit. Okay. So let's jump into Liquify. And let's see what we can do here. So Niall, have you noticed how your understanding of the body... I should ask you that question at the end. But I'm going to show you. You're going to notice how you... I'm not a stooner. The way you draw the body, when you put props on the body like clothes, it makes it look wrong even more so. So the way you tuck in the shoulders in your original drawing, in your original body sketches that I've seen, when you add clothes on, even though these are supposed to be big puffy, it's a big puffy costume she's got going on. It looks like it's just around her shoulder blades, but actually in Niall proportion world, that's not right. It's actually puffy. It's just that the shoulders that Niall draws are always extremely small. So this is a good proof that you need to start paying more attention to the size and proportion of the shoulders. The shoulders are always extremely small, Niall, in your drawings. So let me just show you the difference. Everyone, I'm just going to zoom in. Before, after. She looks like she has the shoulders of an 8-year-old girl. I'm just going to be mean to you, Niall, because I'm trying to kick your butt here. Before, after. Now she looks like she has the shoulders of a bodybuilding, ass-kicking Asian chick. Okay? Asian has nothing to do with it. She's just Asian. She's like Chinese or whatever. Chun-Li, I mean. Okay? Do you see it, Niall? This is proof that you are making your shoulders too small. And you probably like girls with really small shoulders. And you probably appreciate it in a female's body. But you can't over-exaggerate it where it corrupts rather than enhances the proportion. Okay? Next up is the boob line here to make it look like the boobs are actually there. And you have a good hold over I like this hip bone here you have, but I don't see it on this other side. And she's not so turned to the other side that we can't see that other hip. And I know the hand is covering it, but still, it should still be visible. I see a line here, so I'm just going to make that line visible. And I'm going to zoom out so that I can do this better. She does have big thighs, so you got to preserve that. And the knees need to be more strong. Because if you got big thighs and you got knees strong enough to support the weight on top of them. The arm is a bit too short. Gonna stretch that out. And then finally this hand, I'm not sure if it happened after I liquefied, maybe it did. But the hand, you need to get a good reference on how to draw a hand from this angle, because the elbow is still in the same area. Actually, this elbow is too high. The whole arm needs to be lowered a little bit, both arms. Elbow is a bit lower. It's always sort of near your waist. The elbow almost to your hips. It needs to be low enough. and the face needs to be a little bit less masculine. Chun-Li's face is always really cute. So how do you make a face cute? Do you remember the how to make a face look cute video I did? Probably should watch that. Larger eyes, smaller nose, and even smaller lips. You're going to see the instant cuteness. And then of course all the masculine features like heavy jawline and sharp chin need to be softened out. And then eyes stay large and not so much of a masculine square shape. And of course a softer neck. Okay, big puffs in the hair to make her look even more cute. Basically that's what it was. Any self-respecting bodybuilding woman would never wear puffs in her hair. It was the design. It was a designer basically that did this, the designer behind Chun-Li. So he gave her that so she can be cute. She was supposed to be like a cute sort of version. Just increase the size of her head. That's also another way to make something look cute, by increasing the size of the head. And then altogether now things seem to be a little bit more balanced, but we still have a lot of trouble with the arms. The arms seem extremely, extremely stiff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase off the arms, and I'm going to show you other ways that you could paint the arms or resketch the arms or retry the sketch. Remember, Niall, it doesn't hurt to retry. You can only learn more. So you're probably like, oh my god, I'm not retrying this sketch, I'm just going to do something else. But I recommend you do. Challenge yourself. If you want to take it to that next level, then make your work habits and your work ethics in that next level. Meaning try until you get it right. So what you have here, let me just blot this all out. Get my sketch pencil. Oh no. Well, you can watch the recording, right? I'll upload this on YouTube. You can watch the recording. Okay, so for the arms, to make the arms, this arm seems to be hanging because she seems to be leaning on this side, so logically it would hang. We've got this hip, we've got this hip. Oops. And then we've got all of that, and then we've got this arm that's going like, she's got her big spiky wristbands. Okay. Once you get that and you get where the elbow is going to be in the same general area as the other elbow. They're not going to change their location. So you know this elbow is tucked in here somewhere. So we've got the forearm foreshortened, and then we've got the other arm, and then we've got this arm, then we've got connective tissue, and then we've got elbow, and then we've got hand. Okay, so that looks a little bit more cute, I guess. And then even in sketching, you don't have to shade in the lips completely. Even in sketching, the dark spots and light spots, if you just leave it at that, really give you what you need. Those tired eyes that you've given her aren't really helping, and Chun-Li's always got sort of a zoned out face. She doesn't really have much expressions. And then you've got sort of the dark spots in place here and there. Especially for comic book style. They've always got just the dark spots and nothing else, pretty much. Maybe you can watch the recording. I don't know if you heard me say that before, but I'll upload this so you can get the recording. Yeah. And then there you go. If you want to keep the lip shape, just fill in that area between the nose and the lip because it seems to be a bit high. Just like that. That sort of gives you the cute Chun-Li look. And with your pencil, always shade the eyes first. Shade the whole location of the eyes, and then add in those details. That's the fun part about sketching with your hand. It's just the best way to sketch, honestly, in my opinion. Is that you can just blot everything through, and then you get what you get. This is usually what Chun-Li's face looks like. And with your pencil, you can always sketch around and give her some cheekbones here and there. The way you drew her face before was a little bit angry, a little bit old as well. She would look a little bit old, especially with those bags under her eyes. So if you want to make her look a little bit young and whatever, just give her that cute look. So let's look at the before and after. So what I did was I fixed the proportions, gave her the other hip on the other side, made the elbows look a little bit larger. See how her elbows are just tucked in as if they were like a baby's elbows? Shoulders. Shoulders are tucked in. Makes the whole figure really, really stiff. And then after everything, after I critiqued it, it sort of looks a little bit more smooth, a little bit more fluid, and she actually looks like she's gonna stand. She's standing there with the gravity actually pulling on her. And then in order to make the face cuter, to see how she looked like a man, it looked like sort of an older man it looked like an older man wearing a Chun-Li costume. I'm just being really tough with you. I'm sorry, Niall, but I want you to sort of utilize your knowledge from the 14-day challenge that you did on how to make something look cute, which is decrease the size of the lips, decrease the size of the nose, increase the size of the eyes, and don't put any signifiers of old age. So meaning the lines on either side of the lip. You didn't have any of those, but it sort of suggested oldness by the bags under the eyes. Okay, and then because we've sort of lost, oh no, stupid Photoshop. I'm just gonna try to outline it a little bit darker for you. So you could see sort of what I did. Proportion wise. You got the hip, the waist pretty good, actually. And now that looks like Chun-Li.